This was not the direction she had hoped this conversation. There you go, I promised bloopers. Okay, before we get started, someone challenged me to say their name, their chat name, in my opening, and I will. So thank you, Ari the Innocent and Lady of Fingers. That's one title, Ari the Innocent, Lady of Fingers. And it's based on some goofing around in our Keybase chat room. I'll talk about that more later. But here you go, Ari. I delivered. You're up. Welcome to the Lesbian Romantic Podcast. This is Worth the Risk, Part 9. Weird. I shouldn't have sent that email, Raven thought, and threw her phone back on the pillow next to her. It had been over 2 hours now, and she had been refreshing her email to check for a reply every single minute. It was driving Raven up the wall. But she had done this to herself, she knew. After Nathalie had been so eager to leave, Raven had made it up to her room as fast as she could. Stepping into her hotel room, Raven had let out a long, frustrated breath. What am I going to do all night? She had thought. She had thrown her coat over one of the chairs by the table. She had noticed that the hotel staff had made her bed. It had creeped her out a little, as it always did, and she had made a mental note to let them know she didn't want them to do this. Raven preferred not to have strangers sneaking in and out of her room when she wasn't here. This place felt weird enough already. She didn't need a reminder that even this space wasn't hers. She sat down on the bed and looked down at her legs. Nodding slowly, she willed herself to untie her shoes. Raven got up, legs heavy, and put the shoes away in the small hallway of the room. Any appetite she might have had earlier had evaporated as soon as Nathalie had left. Maybe it was a good idea to rest on the bed for a while first. Her feet were tired. Making quick work of taking her clothes off, Raven slipped under the covers. She shifted until her head was comfortably resting on the pillow, with her braids pulled back so they wouldn't get in the way. "What am I doing here?" she whispered to herself, pulling the cover to her chin. Raven squeezed her eyes shut, hoping sleep would come and take her away for a few hours. She chewed on her lower lip as she waited, but her mind was too busy to relax. And it only had one thing it wanted to focus on. Nathalie. Images of Nathalie flashed before Raven's eyes. Nathalie pointing at beautiful buildings. Nathalie leaning back on a wooden bench, laughing and wrapping a strand of hair around her finger. Raven's mind kept going back to those few intense moments at lunch. She had openly enjoyed the flirting and banter with Nathalie. She knew she would have gone too far if that moment hadn't been interrupted. And still, she couldn't help but revisit it over and over again. What if the waiter hadn't walked up at that exact time? What would Nathalie have said? And what would Raven have told her in reply? Raven opened her eyes and glanced in the direction of her phone. She had thrown it onto the bed while undressing and had made a point of ignoring it. Now, she was tempted to check if Nathalie had sent her a message since she had left. Seriously, why on earth would she be texting you? Raven asked herself. She reached for the device anyway. After a tap on the screen, she saw that no new messages were waiting for her. It caused her chest to tighten a little. Had Nathalie completely forgotten about her after such a wonderful day together? The next thought made Raven's heart flutter. I guess I could text her to thank her. Yes, this seemed like a good and appropriate idea. A thank you was definitely in order after all the time Nathalie had given her this weekend. Raven propped herself up on her elbows, smiling. Before she opened the messaging app, she considered what she wanted to say. A simple thank you might make Nathalie respond with just a few words and leave Raven little options for more interaction. Raven's cheeks burned as she admitted to herself how badly she wanted to be in touch with Nathalie. It had only been, 20 minutes since Nathalie had left? And yet, Raven craved to hear from her with a shocking intensity. Raven shook her head slowly. She had no idea what was going on with her. She did know that whenever she thought of contacting Nathalie, she felt a little less out of place. What if I tell her how I feel? She considered, her heart rate picking up instantly. She rolled onto her side and opened her messages. Nathalie's name appeared at the top of the screen. Raven pursed her lips as she started typing. She stopped after she realized this was going to be a very long text. I could email her instead, she decided. It will be a little bit more formal, but that might actually be a good thing. Raven hit the backspace button, deleting what she had written so far, and opened her email app. Scanning the list of new messages, she noted that there was still none from Bart. Pushing her irritation aside, she opened a new message. Raven didn't add Nathalie's name to the receiver field for now. That way, she wouldn't send off a draft email by accident. She smiled as she typed in the subject field. You know, it's weird. It had taken her 15 minutes to say what she wanted to say in the email. She had been pretty pleased with the result. If Nathalie felt the same, she would get it and respond to it. If she didn't, she could easily dismiss what Raven had said. As the time had passed without a reply from Nathalie, Raven had gotten more nervous about it. She knew Nathalie might just not have checked her email. It was Sunday evening, after all. She let out a frustrated sigh just as her phone vibrated, breaking the silence with sudden force. A jolt of electricity shot through Raven's body when she saw Nathalie's name on the screen in bold, white letters. "Hello?" Raven said, a little out of breath, after answering the phone. Hi, she repeated, more calmly. "Hi, Raven. Sorry to disturb you," Nathalie replied. It was weird to hear her voice through a phone line. She sounded so far away. "No problem," Raven said, sitting up and leaning against the bed's headboard. "I was going out for dinner soon anyway." "Sorry to interrupt," Nathalie stammered. "But I didn't think this could wait." Heart racing, Raven fiddled with the sheets. "Yeah, sure. We should talk about it." "First of all, I'm sorry," Nathalie continued, sighing. "I really hate this. It's, Raven frowned. This was not the direction she had hoped this conversation would take. Nathalie's choice of words seemed disproportionately dramatic, though. It's not like Raven had sent her a love declaration, right? I just spoke to Bart," Nathalie said, clearing her throat. "Okay," Raven said slowly, blinking. This call wasn't about her email, then? She rubbed the spot between her eyes. "What did Bart say?" Nathalie took in a deep breath. "Yes?" Raven asked expectantly when Nathalie stopped. "He won't come into the office until Friday," Nathalie said. "What?" Raven asked, the corner of her mouth twitching. "He wants me to meet him in some other place?" "No," Nathalie replied in a near whimper. "I mean that he can't meet with you until Friday." "What?" Raven responded. "What the fuck?" "I know," Nathalie sighed. She cleared her throat again. "He surprised me too. He threw out his entire schedule for the whole week and—" "What the hell is going on?" Raven demanded. "I flew across the world to meet with him tomorrow. It's been on my schedule for months." "I know," Nathalie repeated. "I only just found out tonight. I don't think he was planning on this, but..." "He better not have been planning this. I am here to invest in his company, for crying out loud." "Yes, I know," Nathalie said softly.
I know it's not the same. He wants me to show you the latest designs and go through the numbers with you.
Why? Raven asked, interrupting Nathalie. Why can't he show up? She sounded angry, and she didn't care that she did. Nathalie blew out an exasperated breath.
He said he would explain later. I tried to.
Raven got up from the bed, kicking the sheets to the side. And why are you telling me all of this? Why isn't he calling me?
Believe me,
Nathalie huffed.
I asked him the same thing.
The irritation in Nathalie's voice reminded Raven that she was barking up the wrong tree. But who else was there to yell at? She was being stood up by a guy she had trusted enough to fly across the ocean for in the middle of a pandemic. Now what do I do? She asked herself, momentarily forgetting Nathalie could hear her. Nathalie immediately said,
I can show you the most important stuff tomorrow. I was really involved in this latest project. I can talk you through the details.
Fine, Raven sighed, even though it wasn't fine with her at all. But tell Bart he better gives me a call and explains himself if he wants me to keep considering an investment. It was quiet on the other end of the line for a few seconds.
I will tell him,
Nathalie then said. You do that, Raven snapped. She knew none of this was Nathalie's fault, but she couldn't contain her anger. Bart had made a total fool out of her.
How about I pick you up from the hotel tomorrow morning?
Nathalie suggested, sounding very uncomfortable. Raven bristled. I don't need you to.
It can be pretty hard to find the office, and it'll give us a chance to talk before we get inside with the others,
Nathalie explained. Frowning, Raven asked, How many people are there? Aren't people supposed to be working from home?
Not everyone can,
Nathalie said.
Don't worry, we'll go out as often as we can.
Fine, Raven sighed again, throwing up her hands.
I'll pick you up at 8?
Nathalie asked. Sure, Raven replied and hung up the phone without another word. She stared at the device in her hand. She opened the app that she had always used to book her flights. It was time to admit her mistake and fly home as soon as possible. This was part 9 of Worth the Risk. This week, I want to thank all the patrons and supporters who helped create this podcast. So let's get this started. Hey, thank you so much, Annie. Thank you, Casey and Delisa. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Emily. And thank you, Hunter, Michaela, Marie-Helene, Lacey. Thank you so much. Melissa, Amber, Macy, and Ariana. Thank you. Merci. Patricia, The Dash, Charlotte, Mary, Matthias, Bree, and Miranda. Thank you. I'm so grateful. Deirdre, Kat, Lesbian Mel, and Sharon. Thank you. And also a big thank you to Valerie and Ari, the Innocent. And last but definitely not least, Thea. Thank you all. If you are a supporter and you're not in this list, that's because I didn't want to presume that you are okay with me sharing this. So I only named the patrons on Patreon and the people on my website who let me know that it was okay to thank them publicly. So if you want to be included in my next thank you moment, just let me know. There's a link on the website where you can do that, or you can send me an email. Know that I am super grateful for all of your support. I simply could not do this work without your help, and I am profoundly and eternally grateful. Also, for new listeners or people who haven't explored the website or the community, did you know that we have an awesome chat group on Keybase? It's a free app. It's an encrypted chat app, and you can install it on your smartphone, tablet, or computer and join us. Just sign up for the service. And it's not linked to me. It's just an app. And then you can find the group FRTLR. and ask to be accepted and join us. There are over 100 people from around the world, and things get crazy and fun, sometimes very serious. It's just a wonderful group to be part of. So I hope to meet you there and to talk to you there. All right, fellow romantics, that is all for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for spending time with me. And I will see you soon for the next episode of Worth the Risk.